You have one precious life. How will you make your money work for you? It's time for Sage Money Conversations, where your financial happiness and confidence are always the subject. Here's your host, certified financial planner, Barbara Norman.
Hello and welcome to Sage Money Conversations. I'm your host, Barbara Norman. Let's face it, we don't like to talk about money. It's a delicate subject. Nobody teaches us about money. So Sage Money Conversations is here to touch on those owie points that a lot of people don't want to. And I'm super excited because today we have Laura McGee. Laura started her career 35 years ago as a trial attorney, and get this, she didn't like conflict. So she started her own company, Leave Strong Divorce Mediation, where she helps people actually mediate their divorce, try and get through it kindly without losing their life savings, without losing their dignity, without losing everything. And so what I also love about Laura is not only does she get them through the divorce, but she gets people to move gracefully on to the next chapter of their life. I mean, can you imagine that in a divorce attorney? I don't think that's a fair term. I think you're kind of more of a life attorney. How do we get from one place to the other? And so Laura has her Leave Strong business here in Carlsbad, California. Laura, welcome to Sage Money Conversations. I just want to launch with, divorce is really hard. And I think it's probably one of the most difficult decisions that people have to make in their life. So if someone is contemplating a divorce, what advice would you give them? Let's just start there.
Yeah, absolutely great question. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me to join you here, Barbara. I'm your biggest fan, so I appreciate being here.
Thank you.
So, I perform two types of roles. I work as a divorce coach, and a lot of times in that case, I'm working with people contemplating the divorce. I also work as a mediator, and in that process, I'm working with couples as their neutral, shepherding them through the whole process. So you can imagine if you're contemplating, where to begin. You're entering this maze, and I'm the seeing eye dog, is the way I look at it. I'm going to get you through this maze efficiently. So what do you need to start with? I like to say that, in divorce, information is going to be your absolute superpower. Mm-hmm. Information. With real estate, it's location. We've got information. And by that, I don't mean you need to go get a law degree. You don't have to run this like a legal case. You need to know what to gather, when, and how to gather it. So that's going to be the most important part.
Okay, so let's just say for a moment that I'm a woman who, my husband has the business, he's handled the finances, I've handled the house and the kids, I've signed the tax returns, but let's face it, I don't know what they say. Mm-hmm. And I don't know where the bank accounts are. I just know I've got my debit card. Where would somebody start?
Right. That's so common, by the way. In marriages, people often divide and conquer. You do this task, I do that task. My experience is, particularly women that step out of the workforce or work part-time, they allow a lot of the long-term financial organization to go to them. They might know their budget, and they know that money comes into the account, and they know that they definitely use it on the family, but they don't necessarily really understand where the money's coming from. So if you have access to your tax returns, that's a good place to start. If you don't have access, you can go onto the IRS website and at least order your transcripts, and you can do that privately so that he doesn't know you've begun your research. Sometimes these days, we're all banking online, and we're mostly paperless today. So I will acknowledge it's a big challenge if you haven't been in the know. So a couple of options. If the marriage hasn't completely broken down, and if you're still having some conversations, I treat it like you are in the business of your marriage together. Would you ever have a business partner where you said, no, I don't need to see the books. That's fine. You can just keep me blind. So you could just have a conversation saying, I've been giving this some thought, and we're business partners, and I want to talk about our longer term planning, some of our short-term goals, some of our long-term goals. Can we kind of have a business summit? Can we sit down and have a conversation about everything we have and maybe everything we don't have? What do we owe? I mean, that's a sign that at least you're still, having the opportunity to investigate without having to literally be investigative. So that would be nice.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So if we've never had this conversation before, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, I want to know where all the bones are buried.
Yeah.
Raise a little red
Alert.
alert. So give us some tools as to, okay, we're trying to figure out what I have.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've got probably, I'm guessing, a reluctant spouse. And if it's someone who's suspecting this, would they be trying to hide money? Like, okay, how does that conversation go when it goes bad?
Well, and it definitely can go bad. And there's a bit of a living tree approach. I mean, in the coaching I do with clients, we're doing it one step at a time. I'm actually working with a woman right now. She's been a stay-at-home mom for 23 years. She just went back and got her bachelor's degree. 2 children the youngest one just left for college this beginning semester. And husband, you can tell, has been planning to let her know that, okay, you're done. And she has no information about what's going on. And so I'm coaching her through the conversation. And the first conversation was much like I just said. I said, first try, always try, assume the best. Hey, we're business partners. Our kids are going off to college. I know I want to work again. This is a great opportunity for me to become more informed and engaged and take some of the burden off of you of making all those decisions. Let's have a business summit. So that was trying to approach him in a really positive way. And of course, it gave it a context. Our life is going through a life change. This would be a good time for me to re-engage and not just be getting the kids off to school kind of thing. Sometimes you can
approach it. I like it.
Yeah. So far, that's not working. So good thing you asked, because now we have to escalate. And I treat it like a triage. Like if you've got a headache, don't run to the brain surgeon first, right? Like let's figure out you just need an aspirin. So goal hopefully is maybe this marriage needs an aspirin. It's not looking like it. He owns 2 real estate brokerages. He has an offshore company that does marketing in the Philippines that he owns. There's significant business assets. So here was my next approach. I said, you've been running the household budget. You may not have access to his accounts, but you can do a cash flow analysis. And she's like, yeah, I can do that. So I said, sort out how much you have been spending monthly, give it a 12-month look. If you can, what was in the kids' college accounts, because they did have college savings. So do a 12-month window. What did you have at the beginning of 12 months? What did you have in savings? Maybe she doesn't know retirement. Put a little question mark in each of those boxes. What did you owe, if anything? She's pretty sure they don't have credit card debt. None she knows about, because she pays it off monthly to the bank account. And she was able to determine that they had a very significant cash flow. So I said, well, do you know if you owe the IRS? And you can go get online again and get your tax, because she didn't have access to her tax returns. So she's doing some digging. And so far his response has been, I'm not really making anything. COVID.
Uh-huh.
And so there's going to be some more layers. So we're going to keep working through that conversation.
Yeah. And you know what, Laura, you bring up such a good point, because the tax return tells a story. It's not just money in, money out. If we go to that Schedule B, that Schedule B tells me how much interest did the bank pay? How much interest, what did we get off of our brokerage account? So all the financial institutions. Mm-hmm. Now we go to that Schedule C and we see, what did the businesses do? What came in? What went out? And so you get an accounting on all of it just from getting that tax return. So that's huge, great advice. But
and also, you bring a good point. Sorry to interrupt you there, Barbara, but you know what? Most of these women, they're lucky if they even sign the tax return. So talk to somebody like you. Like, don't be afraid. Use experts. You don't have, when I say information, I don't mean you need to go and become an accountant and become a lawyer. You need to build a village around you of people that know more than you, trusted experts, particularly, somebody that really is willing to decipher and not belittle you, because this is not something you were too busy making cookies and getting the kids to school on time, making sure the homework was done, making dinner for him when he came home.
Yeah. And finance it's a foreign language that we have to get used to. Nobody teaches this stuff. And so, I hate to use the word seeing eye dog, but maybe someone who acts like an interpreter that can say, okay, this is what it really says. And so I think that's huge. So, okay, we're gathering the financial information. It's all a little bit scary. What's the next step for someone who's trying to transition?
Right. So even, again, from an information level, there's a profession, CDFA, I know you're familiar, Certified Divorce Financial Analyst. They know the divorce rules, they know the financial rules, so you might need to escalate up to another level of a resource. So again, one of the things I'm doing is I'm flagging issues for people and helping them to have the difficult conversations, but I'm also going to get them to the experts who can then decipher their information. Because the other thing I see a lot, particularly when the women have been out of the workforce, the home has been the nest. They built it. They're so attached to it. And they're like, I want the house. But, maybe it's not going to be a practical choice. And so having somebody, I've had people come in and say, okay, my husband's keeping his retirement and I'm keeping the house. You can swap apples and oranges, but you don't want to know that you got a crab apple and he got like an orange grove kind of thing. So having an expert give you sort of decipher what's the post-tax reality of these assets. And if you're in the mature age group that I belong to, and the gray divorce really is the divorce world these days, it's the only escalating divorce, there's all kinds of hidden gems. We got Prop 6090, we got Prop 19, is there a tax basis? So I won't get it all, but I'm saying you don't even know what you don't know. So you've got to work with experts, absolutely have to.
I think my numbers can be intimidating, especially if we're approaching this for the first time. And Laura and I were talking yesterday. I think what's beautiful, Laura, about what you do is you create a new budget, a new reality, a new life. So we've got this one picture right now of we're living with someone and it's just maybe it's just soul sucking and you want to get the heck out, or maybe you want to move on. But I think sitting down and almost like a vision board, just creating what that ideal life looks like for you, and then maybe taking the numbers and working backwards into it. And I think a lot of people are pleasantly surprised that once they see like what the numbers will and won't do, I think it's easier for our heart to follow and make better decisions with our head when we can actually see, hey, there's light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to get out of this. Life's going to be good again.
Right. Yeah. Moving from that fear-based, oh my God, I'm going to be a homeless bag lady, which right. I tell you, I meet with so many women that, there's plenty of money, but the fear is there. Just like, you can be afraid of spiders, never been bitten one your whole life. They say fear is false expectations appearing real. And so part of what I'm trying to help people do is reality test their fears. Guess what? You may not live in this home, maybe not, but you're not going to be homeless. And guess what? It's just a structure. You build the home. You put the heart in the home. And so if you can let go of the idea that, that if the children don't come home and sleep in their same bed with their same high school logos on the wall, there's a reason they left them there. They're right. And so helping them to trust that life after divorce is an opportunity to literally begin a whole new chapter. And there's so many, I would include myself in this because, I went through a litigated divorce that went on forever and it was soul crushing and financially crushing. And I thought, well, I'm to work. And I can't imagine what I'd be doing at this time in my life if I hadn't had the opportunity to reinvent myself. And that was the silver lining. That was the blessing of my own divorce. And so you can invigorate your life with a new passion, find new community, rebuild connections with family, because so often a toxic relationship has made you practically fetal and sometimes actually fetal. And it's like this re-blossoming coming out of the seeds that you planted so long ago that were buried under muck. Yeah. Be like a cicada, come back to life, only up for just a month or two.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a really big point is build your community. And that's, Sage Path Solutions, that's we're always talking about building our community because they're the people who get us through. We have those friends that we have wine and difficult conversations with. We have the ones where we get out with our book club or our walking club or cooking or church or whatever it is. But those people that bring you back to life, people that pull you back into life and are your new family. And don't mind, Laura, I'm going to just jump right in. And Harvard has done a study, and the study is over 80 years long. They're on their fourth researcher, and they went and they talked about happiness, like what makes us happy. And the core thing that in this study, they started with World War II veterans who are Harvard graduates, and then they started with men from the Bronx, and they followed them for 80 years. There's very few left, but now they're following their spouses and their children. And what they found was that, yeah, some of those Harvard grads floated to the bottom. Some of the Bronx men came to the top. But the one thing in common that they all had was a solid relationship, someone that they could rely on at all times. And they went to say it doesn't have to be an unhealthy marriage. It can be friendships. And so building our tribe, building our community as we come through a divorce, huge.
Yeah. I love that study, by the way.
But you know what? This is also kind of devastating. Our kids are up and out of the house. They're everything that we knew. We've done their soccer, their football, their PTAs. Now we've got to redefine ourselves. How do we do that?
Mm-hmm. Well,
in our life.
Well, and the nice thing is there's just so much opportunity. And I always turn, like, my favorite sort of, I guess, mentor icon of reinvention is Louise Hay. I live here in Carlsbad, California, and she started her company, Hay House Publishing. I think she was about 60, 62 years old. And she had written this beautiful book that became an all-time bestseller on New York Times. And she used that to launch her next life path. She's since published Wayne Dyer, Christiane Northrup, I mean, you name it. She became the largest publishing house for spiritually based books in the world.
At the age of 62, she launched this?
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. You have to read her book. I actually have it, always have.
Wow. You can heal your life. I'm going to have you do a link for our listeners so they can grab that book, because what an amazing story.
Has the most inspiring life. And, looking for some beacons out. It doesn't have to be, somebody's completely reinvented their life. But I had a client recently, and she bought a Kona ice cream truck, and her 15-year-old son's still at home. So now in the summer times, he works for her, and she's teaching him enterprise. And she goes, and then I go to school, I'm like doing charities and fundraisers and stuff. She goes, I'm just having the time of my life. And it was a $75,000 investment. And she'd only had a high school education. She goes, I'm not going to get a college education at age 52. I'm going to do something fun. And she loves being around children. And so you can be so creative, find your passion, let it lead you to where you really want to be, and then let it grow from there. And this is like you know about this, our timelines, actuaries all know, like, we should all be expecting to live, hopefully in a healthy way, till we're 100. And if you're divorcing at 50, well, what's the next 50 years? Or even if you're divorcing at 65, you're not dead. Hopefully you're not disabled, flourish, grow, make some hay house.
It's true. So, you know what? I think you brought up some really good points. If you're thinking about divorcing, start pulling those assets in, start getting that budget going, start dreaming about your new life. And then, like you said, find your tribe, find your community, find those experts and professionals who are going to help you walk through it, answer your questions. But you know what? I think in all of this, when we're going through a divorce, sometimes it feels good to have a nasty lawyer, someone who will just go at the other person with both gloves on, but that is not the answer. It's going to cost you a ton of money. And so anybody listening to this, oh my gosh, I encourage you, fight as little as you can in your divorce and move on as quickly as you can. You're going to have less scars and more money at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I named my business Leave Strong Divorce Services because I wanted the name of my business to reflect my mission, to help others leave strong instead of broken, which is really what happens if you go through litigation. And we're supposedly no fault, but it never feels that way. Save your resources so you can have that life after divorce. And rarely does, I like to say that 100% of the people that want a divorce, guess what? You're going to get a divorce. Even if you didn't want the divorce, you're going to get it 100%. But the difference is how much money you spend, how much stress you went through, and, really even how it might have deteriorated your health from the level of stress that you went through, how much money you squandered on an argument instead of saving it for yourself and life after divorce. And so it's really, they're going to end often very much the same, sometimes financially. Well, not if you spent it all in litigation. It's not going to end the same because you're going to bleed out.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm just going to get my link. I put Louise Hay's link in there to her story, a little bit of her story, and you'll get to her site from there. and she's just a beacon. Just finding some beacons is very inspiring.
That is very inspiring. So we're going to follow Louisa Hayes. Laura, how do we find you?
Leave Strong Divorce Services, and I'm going to put my link in here, leavestrong.com. Much better than Leave Broke. That was already taken by me. So,
very good. And I think you have a free download for us. Tell us about your download.
I offer a complimentary consultation for anybody who wants to know more about my services, whether it's coaching or divorce mediation. All they have to do is go directly to my website, and they can schedule it themselves by Zoom or in person. I'm in the village of Carlsbad, but I've got clients all over the country when it comes to coaching, and so we can meet by Zoom, or in case you want a nice trip to the seaside, come on over to Carlsbad. I'm right about 2-minute block from the beach.
Very good. Laura, thank you so much for your time today, for your knowledge, and for all these wonderful tips. We sure appreciate you and hope you have a good day.
Thank you so much, Barbara. I so appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Advisory services are offered through Barbara J. Norman, LLC, an investment advisor in the states of California and Texas. The information contained herein should in no way be construed or interpreted as a solicitation to sell, nor an offer to sell advisory services to any residents of any state other than the state of California, or where otherwise legally permitted. All content is for information purposes only. It is not intended to provide any tax or legal advice or provide the basis for any financial decisions. The information contained in this material has been derived from sources believed to be reliable, but is not guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness and does not purport to be complete analysis of the materials discussed. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of SagePath Solutions and are subject to change without notice.